Come here. Come. Good girl. Even though the AKC Fetch program is new, they've already clarified some of the rules. So one of the things is what your dog can retrieve. Your dog can retrieve a bumper. Your dog can retrieve a ball. And with that ball, you can use a launcher like a Chuck-It. Your dog can retrieve a toy like a Wubba, right? Dash likes all those. They are not allowed to retrieve stuffed toys. They don't get to retrieve flying disc. And a tug toy, they haven't really said anything about this. A tug toy is, to me, as a judge, I would allow it because this is like a small bumper. It's also in line with the Wubba, where it's used more for interaction instead of the dog just running around squeaking it and chewing on it. In order to participate in the fetch test, your dog must be at least 6 months old. At the novice or intermediate level, while you're throwing the bumper, the dog may either sit, stand, or it can lie down. Good dog. At the advance and the retriever level, the dog needs to either be in a stand or a sit. Come here. When you're throwing the bumper, especially at the novice and intermediate level, you are allowed to back up to go get it, to encourage your dog. So come on back. Dash, 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 dash. So you can back up to get your dog to come in. Go girly. And that way they'll bring it all the way in. When your dog brings you back the bumper, it needs to not be playing tug with you. It needs to willingly give the bumper up. And that's why I ask for a sit when my dog comes back, because then she knows her job. Dash, come. Dash, come. Sit. Give. Good. Oops. Good. Okay. But the dog must willingly give it up. You're allowed to reward the dog once you get that bumper or ball from it, but you're not allowed to use a treat to exchange for the toy. So you can't show it to the dog and say, if you give me the toy, I will give you the treat. You also cannot pretend to have a treat in your hand. If you have a female in season, they are allowed to participate in the fetch test, but they must do their retrieve at the end of the day. So that means if you have 2 events in the same day, you're not going to be able to have your dog participate in the first one of the day if they follow each other. If they're back to back and in 2 different areas, then your dog can be the last dog of that particular event to do the retrieve. If it's cold outside, your dog is allowed to wear a coat during the fetch test, but you're not allowed to put clothes or costumes on them to make them look cutesy. So the coat will only be to keep them safe in cold weather. Dogs that are physically impaired but otherwise healthy may be able to participate in the fetch test. Dogs that are hearing impaired can still participate in fetch. You can use hand signals. Dogs that only have 3 legs can participate in fetch as long as the judge feels the dog is physically comfortable and not in pain. The definition of a restart is if you have to give a second command for that dog to go get the retrieving object, and that command can be verbal, it can be a hand signal, it can be a whistle, it can be any combination. But if the dog refuses to go get it the first time and you have to repeat it, then that's a restart. A restart is also if the dog picks up the object but drops it on the way back and you have to tell them to pick it back up. Another example of a restart is if the dog gets distracted or gets the zoomies, and again, you have to repeat what the dog needs to do in order for it to get back on task. So all of those are considered restarts. You get 2 restarts in novice and intermediate, and it's not 2 restarts per throw, it's 2 restarts in the test. And at advance and retrieve, you get 1 restart. If your dog is off task during the retrieve, there's a time limit for the dog to be able to get back on task and start working. If your dog gets off task and the judge starts timing, and your dog at the novice level will have 90 seconds to get back on task, and then it will still be allowed to pass. At the intermediate level, your dog will have 30 seconds to get back on task, and at the advanced and retriever level, your dog will have 15 seconds to get back on task. As long as your dog is working, there's really no time limit for your dog to have to perform the retrieve. If there is an excessive amount of time, then the it is the judge's discretion whether or not they're going to allow your dog to keep working. But at the novice level, your dog has 90 seconds to be off task before it's not qualifying. So if it's working all that time, there really isn't a set limit if 90 seconds is allowed to be off task. There's really no limit for how long it can be on task, especially at the advance and the retriever level where the ball or the bumper is dropped behind a blind. The dog doesn't see it. The dog needs to be able to find it. And as long as the dog is working the entire time, then it's on task and there's really no time limit. It's at the judge's discretion. You're allowed to give encouragement to your dog to not only go get it, but to bring it back. Now that's as opposed to your dog not wanting to get it in the first place, and you have to give a repeat command. But I can say, stop it. Sit. Right here, do this. Stay. But when I send my dog stay, take it. Good girlie. I can talk to it. Okay, bring it back. Come here. Good girl. Dash, sit. Yes, good one. And all of that is okay. You're not going to NQ if you encourage your dog. You can also pat your leg. You can back up to get your dog to come back to you. The guidelines recommend that the judge gives you 3 attempts for a throw before they'll have a helper throw for you. So the reason the throw wouldn't count and you would have to rethrow would be if you didn't throw it far enough. Like at the novice and intermediate level, you would have to throw it past the distractions. At the advanced and retriever level, if you wanted to throw as opposed to a helper dropping them, it's okay if you use a check it. But again, it must go beyond the blinds. If you threw outside the retrieve area, you would have to rethrow. And so if you can't do that in 3 attempts, then the judge may choose to have a helper throw for you. At the advance and the retriever level, it's okay if you throw the ball instead of having one of the trial helpers drop it behind the blind, and you are allowed to use a check it so that it'll go farther. The dog must stay until the ball is dead, so that means it stops rolling, and it must go beyond the blinds. The Fetch program is very new, and there will probably be more clarifications coming out of AKC as there's more questions when things pop up during trials. Right here. Stay. Stay. Take it. Good. Come here. Right here. Sit. Give. Do this. Yes. Go get it. Hurry. Get it, get it, get it. Get it. Where is it? Yeah. Come here. Come, come, come. Come, come, come.